Maybe. Sweet. Okay. I think we're live. Um, cool. So, welcome. What's up? If you're here live, as always, be sure to hit the like button. If you're watching this after the fact, also hit the like button. There's too many of you who watch these and don't press the like button, okay? So please do so. I figured I would do this live because last time I tried to upload the video that was long. You guys know what happened. It took forever. So we're going to do this live. If you haven't seen my initial layout review video, you're going to probably want to watch that before you watch this, if you're not watching this live. Just because there's a lot of things that I talk about that will provide context to what I'm about to say here. So we out here, what's up? So there's a few things that as we practiced the layout this past weekend that I feel like clarified some things that I talked about, or were things that I just didn't even know about before playing the layout. So I didn't play it myself, but I coached two teams that did. And so certainly this is from my limited perspective. I'm sure some people who had more teams that they watched play this layout learned some more things. And obviously, whatever you're willing to share in the comments down below, I'm sure people would really appreciate that. Yo, I like Three's tips for the layout. Yeah, so I'll talk about 3v3. I get asked about 3v3 all the time. My answer is always the same. 3v3 does not change. All you ever do is you just put three people. You put a person here, one here, one here, and then you just push. Okay? As far as what you do after the fact, go watch my 3v3 guide video. I'm not going to talk about more about it. It's very straightforward. 3v3 is not hard. Okay, so first things first. I think it should be said that in my layout review video, I said that the home doesn't really have any shots towards the snake off the break. And that's partially true. But what we did discover is that from the start box, right when the point breaks, you actually have a really solid shot towards the snake runner if you shoot just above the beam, or just above, like kind of closest to the top part of the cake. So really in this box right here on the outside, oh, is that the cake that I'm thinking of? No, that's the corner. Okay, sorry, I'm looking at this cake right here. So if you put your paint anywhere in that zone, you will hit somebody as they're running. So if you shoot just above the beam, you'll shoot somebody who's trying to dive in right here. And if you shoot farther, a little higher, you'll shoot somebody who's trying to dive in here. So obviously, depending on which, who you're trying to shoot for, you certainly could, fan it a little bit going up and down. Obviously, you reduce your chances of hitting either spot just by the nature of that. But there is a shot there from the home if you're trying to shoot the snake player. So you can't see it super well. It is there. I'm sure it'll be there at the tournament. What we found in our experience was that a lot of teams, if they were going to go snake off break, they were likely going to go to this mini W. So more often than not, that's where people prefer to go off the break. I do think that maybe at the tournament, or maybe you guys saw this as well, I do think there's a lot of opportunity for this route. For whatever reason, we didn't do it a ton. We did it more towards the latter half of the day, and this route is super solid. To use this tower as a blind towards the home and then get really low and dive in using this juice box or the door, whatever you want to call it, as a blind from the home, this is a really solid, not like insanely safe route, but it's a pretty safe route into the snake. It's certainly a different route than it is to just go right here, right away. It seemed to be that if we went on the outside, this was the route that we were taking. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if at the event we actually saw a lot more of this happening. Whether it increases your chances of living or not, I'm not sure. But as always, the alternative is to just come out here super wide and essentially avoid all of that paint. The other thing that we noticed, at least on our layout, again, it might be a little different at the tournament. I don't want to keep caveating that because you guys know. This corner route was terrible. I think there's still opportunity to play this corner, but you have to have a plan to get out of here. Okay, if you go to the corner and you have no plans of how to get into the snake, or you don't know what you need to do to get into the snake from the corner, you should never go to the corner. Okay. The biggest issue is going to be that the tower guy, whoever was playing the tower, and even the home can stop you if you get to this spot. Okay. You have to be able to challenge the guy as soon as you get here. And really the only safe way to do that is to come up over the top. And the problem is that if that's your go-to, it will be very predictable. You certainly could wrap on either side. You know, I think the inside's a little bit safer than the outside is. You can't really see the home, but if the home is there, I think you can actually avoid that guy altogether. But just know that this, if you go to the corner, you will have to gunfight somebody to get out of the corner. Okay. I think if that's your game plan, if your game plan is to take a different route into the snake via the corner, you should probably just pull short instead. I think you should probably just pull short to this to the god bunker, the snake insert, whatever you want to call it, or even like out to the can or something, because I just feel like the corner is really, really rough. If you're playing against a team who only sends, for whatever reason, if they just have a person who plays the home and then a person who goes here, their number 2 who plays the can, and then their number 1 who's either in the insert or the snake 1, we'll call it. If that's their configuration off the break, the corner route becomes a little safer, just because, again, the home player is pretty far away from you. You can take this inside route and you don't have to worry as much about the home. But if they're sending a guy to this bunker off the break, that's going to kill that. So just be aware of that. So Austin, first time watching live, love your content, trying to learn as much as I can before playing Cup as my first tournament ever playing D5. Dude, welcome. We got him, boys. We got him. Hey, if you guys are watching this live, please hit the like button. There's 20 of you. 8 likes helps the video out a lot. I say it all the time. Thank you so much. It's there too. I got shot 100% from that shot. Yeah, that shot is there from the home. I assume that's the one you're talking about. This is dope. Thank you. Smash that like. Appreciate it, Eric. Okay, so in my layout review video, there's 2 things I want to talk about now. We talked about the snake corner. That's something I wanted to clarify before we move on. So another thing that I talked about was that I felt that this bunker was probably the most important bunker in terms of influencing one side or the other. I think I want to retract that. I actually think that this bunker is that bunker. And there's a few reasons for that. One, this bunker does not have anything that it can really do on the Dorito side. Okay. Now at our field, these gaps were a lot better. So this gap in particular was a lot better than it is in this Guns Up layout. I don't know what it'll be like at the tournament, but this can gap, or from the can to the tower, is a lot better. So there is certainly some influence you can have on the Dorito side, more specifically with how the support player pushes up the field. But as you can see, for the most part, you can't really see anything until they get to the Dorito 3, right? You can certainly stop them in this Dorito 3 gap from there to the 50, but like that's kind of it, right? So you can't influence the attacker in this position. Over here, I had mentioned that you can slow the snake push down, and you can actually respond to the snake player getting to the second mini W. Oh, why is that not working anymore? Hold on. This is better. Okay, good. So if somebody gets to this mini W, you obviously can't see them here trying to get to that 50, but if you come up to the door, you can. However, a few things first. And by the way, before I ever get accused from anybody, if there's anybody out there, I know that New Orleans Hurricanes has like a workbook or like a strategy book that identifies all the bounce shots, and like they have like a scouting report or whatever, a scouting sheet that you can work with. I don't have access to that. So if I'm calling out any bounce shots that they have, noted, I've not seen it before. So I love New Orleans Hurricanes. If I was playing, I would absolutely buy that book, by the way. But you actually, from this spot, you can slow the snake down by shooting this bounce shot right here off of the can, or off of this cake. It'll actually bounce and prevent the person from moving on the outside of this bunker. It's a really, really solid shot. However, even better is actually this position. So I called this out in my layout review video, but I believe that this is the bunker that will primarily slow down the snake. Okay. So not only do you have that same bounce shot if you wanted to, which there's no reason for you to, you can actually just shoot at the guy right here. The only spot you can't stop is really the inside channel. But if you shoot the cake on this part right here, it will bounce downward and will make it feel really uncomfortable for them to move. So this bunker has such good viewpoints from either of those positions, not only from the mini W up to the second one, but the second one up to the 50. You just have such a good access to that spot. And the nice thing is that now, even if you don't have somebody on the snake wire, you don't have to worry about them taking the outside route. Because the biggest issue on this layout, and the one that I don't feel like we really touched on or could identify, is that if you didn't have somebody on the snake wire shooting down the tape, you didn't really have anybody who could stop the snake, right? And the problem with that is that if you rely so much on your front player to do all the heavy lifting for you, then he is not only a huge risk body, no matter what he does, but it also means that he can't really shoot on the inside, right? If you're relying on your attacker in the snake to hold the wire, he can't ever kill anybody on the inside, because the moment he does, that person that's playing heads up with him is just going to go all the way to the 50, right? So now, like I said, this person can do that job. This person can shoot this spot right here, but more importantly, this Dorito person can as well, okay? Now, there's a few reasons why this is an important difference in what I talked about in the layout review video, okay? The first is that it means that this bunker... Well, first of all, let me back up. We already identified that the Dorito 1 attacker is probably going to be on an island most of the event, okay? The reason is because to support your Dorito 1 attacker, it is not to push behind them, okay? So, for example, if I had a Dorito attacker that was here and I was in this position as a support player, my move to support them is not to go here, because I can't stop the Dorito attack from this position, okay? Now, that is in the case that I have this very standard setup, okay? This is a very standard setup that we have going on here. This is a pretty standard breakout. However, the biggest difference, or the issue with this breakout is that this forces me as a number 2 to go to this spot. Nothing wrong with that necessarily, because this is a really good spot. But like we just identified, this person actually has insane crossfield shots over towards the snake, but they also are a big factor in slowing down the Dorito side, okay? So what I've seen in just a few clips and things is actually suggesting there are a lot of teams that are sending a player right off the break into this spot and then shooting cross. Or even better yet, they're playing heads up in the Doritos, right? It's really a decision on which direction they want to shoot. But I'm seeing people like gun down, running around the can and getting into the tower right away so that they can hold this gap. So if you get here, you can't see the Dorito 1 to Dorito 2, but however, you can bounce paint off of this Dorito 2 into the Dorito 1. And I believe that's what they're shooting. So it's a little crappy from this angle. I'm not sure if it's better or worse at the event. But if you back up even farther, actually, yeah, you can't see it here. So it must be the tower. Okay. So the tower can stop the Dorito 1 to Dorito 2 move by bouncing paint off of this spot. It'll go right into their face. So what I'm seeing people do is they'll get to the spot right away. Now, if you hear, hey, Snake 2 or Snake 3 or whatever, it might be that you need to switch off of that job and then shoot Snake Way. But by that point, you should have a Snake or Dorito player hopefully far enough up the field that they can now start shooting either here, whatever that shot looks like, or getting up into the Dorito 3 and wrapping. Now, we already talked about this in the layout review video. This spot is really rough to be in if they're in the snake, because as you can see, you're pretty exposed to a lot of what's going on in the snake. But that's only if they're stuck at the snake 1 or snake 2. If they're stuck in one of these two spots, it's not very safe to be here. If they're pushed up farther, you're actually somewhat safer in this spot, at least according to GunsUp. So let me back up, or let me continue then. So why am I talking about this? So what we find, or what it seems to be, is that the 3 has an opportunity to actually come up here off the break and send the 2 playing heads up and the 1 over here. So now what you have is you have your number 3 who's holding the snake, your number 2 who's shooting towards the Doritos, and your number 1 is in one of these 2 spots. Now, admittedly, I don't love a stack like this between the 2 and the 3. Okay, I think it's very risky to do that, because you're both in the same zone, and so one gun can in theory stop you from moving, i.e. the guy that's playing heads up to you. This one gun can shoot at both of you guys, and it can really pinch you out. But this spot is just a leapfrog position. Okay. If you put your number 3 here, it means that your follow-up attack from your number 2 is less bad. And the reason is because as soon as you leave this spot, your number 3 can switch guns if need be, okay? Your number 3 can swap spots and now start shooting Dorito way and slow that attack down. However, the only issue with doing that is that you expose yourself to the snake, right? If you take your gun off of the snake, not only do you allow them to progress, but you can see that you're really exposed to the snake inside shot, right? That second, or I guess that would be the mini wedge. Whatever the case is, if you turn your back to this, you have to be behind your gun on the Dorito side, which is true regardless if you were looking the snake way or not, right? But all I'm trying to say is that pushing your support player to this Dorito 1, for example, behind your Dorito attacker becomes less bad as long as you have somebody in one of these two bunkers, and you can do that by sending your 3 here, either off break or whatever the case is, right? So there are options. That's all I'm trying to say. Don't feel like because of what I said in the layout review video that you can't do this. It just means that you probably need to have some kind of eyes on the Dorito side, whether that's from your home or from the can of the tower, right? The home can see a little bit of the Doritos. So we talked about this before. The home can see this Dorito 1 to Dorito 2 gap by just dumping paint in here. And like we talked about before, if you're putting paint right in this spot, it will very likely bounce towards your Dorito 1, the Dorito 1 attacker. So not a terrible spot to be in, and it actually is, the gaps are pretty big, at least at the layout that we were at. So the home player does have a lot of utility from this position towards the Dorito side, not nearly as much as I think as they do towards the snake side. So let me think. What else was there? Let's take a break here for a second. Cupping that first event is dope. Good luck, homie. Yeah, cupping World Cup being your first event is awesome. That's a huge deal. Okay, let's talk about some like mid to late game progression that we noticed. So because we figured out who the person was to slow down the field, like the snake side, there's a way you can like develop a game plan into that, which is that, so let's say, for example, you did like a pretty standard breakout. Let's say that you sent your number 2 here and your number 1 on the Dorito side here. Your number 3 is here. Your number 2 is here, and your number 1. Let's say your number 1 clears some space and gets to this mini W. Okay, so if your home player was shooting Dorito way, you can get away with this because, well, let's just identify the guns. This player, the number 2 would shoot cross very likely towards the same gap over here and then play heads up. Your number 1's running with his gun down, obviously. Your number 2 is shooting that same cross shot that we just identified over here, but towards the snake side can, and then playing heads up, and then your number 1's playing heads up. So right now we have decent-ish coverage on what's going on, except that we didn't actually, I'm realizing now we didn't have anybody shooting the snake. So we could actually have our number 3 instead shoot towards snake. Let's say that that's what we do, because we don't really care that much about the Doritos in this particular example. So the home is shooting snake way in that shot we identified. The 2 is shooting cross, then heads up. This 2 is doing the same thing, cross, then heads up. Your number 1's going here, and your number 1's going somewhere in these 2 bunkers. Doesn't really matter. So if we wanted to have all of our safety nets covered, so we wanted to make sure that we had a body that could slow down the snake and a body that could slow down the Doritos, there's a couple ways that we can develop that, all while remembering that the snake side is probably going to win most of our games for us. Okay, in the layout review video, I talked about how I think the middle of the field is going to dictate a lot of the pace of the game. Therefore, I think it's like a mid-heavy field. I sort of still agree with that, but I mostly think that it's just going to be the case that snake is going to win most of the games. Okay, if you have an uncontested snake player on this layout, he's probably just going to win the game for you. So with that in mind, we have an emphasis on slowing the snake, not only trying to kill the snake off the break, but then slowing the snake down as much as possible, all while not making our snake 1 attacker being primarily responsible for stopping the snake. Okay, hopefully you guys are following me here, because that's quite a bit. So there's a way that we can develop into a play that supports the snake, puts a lot of bodies that direction, all while holding the Dorito side, okay? And that play is that after the point is developed, ideally we want to have this setup. This is the setup that we want to get towards, in my opinion, okay? Which is that our number 2 holds the wire from the outside, and our number 1 is free to do whatever from this position. They're safe in this spot, safe-ish from being run down, because at the very least, if the guy comes from the inside, these 2 will trade because the number 1 is already looking on the inside, and that the number 2 protects them from an outside run. Okay, so however, if we go here and this guy's trying to do some stuff and he's trying to protect him as well, and then maybe this dude switches, you still have the opportunity to trade, but there could be a lot more like rounding the corner and shooting a pack and then pulling back where you don't get an equal trade there. So this is the setup you're trying to get to, in my opinion. So what that means is that our number 2 can't really ever be the guy to slow this push down on the snake. And we also identified in the layout review video that this position from the laydown door is really solid towards the Dorito side if you can keep them at the Dorito 1. So if you have really strong guns, or your home player is doing a lot to you know, kill the Dorito player so they pull up short, if you can get a guy in this spot, you can stop the Dorito push almost entirely. Okay, the biggest issue is going to be that he challenges you from the inside and surprises you and you flinch and then he goes. But the biggest thing is this laydown door is super solid towards the Dorito side as long as we're at the Dorito 1. Now you can make this move, you can afford to make this move as long as because your back is to the snake, as long as you have 2 bodies alive on the snake side, you can do that move, okay? Which, again, just to reiterate, means that our number 2 is going to be pushing this way with our number 1, okay? In an ideal setup, this is where we try to get to, and our number 3 tries to get to this position, okay? So now our number 3 is also on the snake side, that is, you know, being heavily emphasized, and if shit hits the fan, so the number 3 is trying to hold the Doritos. If the shit hits the fan, then the number 3 can always turn their gun and look this way. Okay? So the number 3 can always hold safety on this position in particular and help whoever is still alive on the snake. Now, granted, they give up the Dorito hold, but you were only keeping them at the Dorito 1. We're now worried about like a snake 40 at this point, possibly a snake 50. So it's okay to give up that pressure as long as we, you know, have some kind of response on the Dorito side to help. So the reason we're doing this setup is because we're trying to slow the Dorito down as much as possible while our Dorito player moves up the field, and then again being in position to help the snake if we need to. So there's a couple things you can do to get to this point. We found, in my opinion, it is not worth it to send your number 3 off the break to this spot, okay? The only reason you would do that is because you want to make sure that you get to this spot before the Dorito 1 passes into the Dorito 2, but this isn't going to stop them from that, okay? The other thing we discovered is that if the Dorito player survives this first gap, they can more often than not just go to the Dorito 2 right away, just given how we were working the breakouts. So the only way around that is to make sure that your number 3 is doing a good job of hitting these shots, but this is the containment. These 2 shots you have to be good at, okay? You have to hit these shots or threaten people's positionings in these spots. So you can put your first 1 to 3 balls here and then the rest of them right here, because all you're trying to do is kill them at the Dorito 1 from this spot and then stopping them from getting to the Dorito 2 from this shot. As soon as you contain them here, your can player should be in a position to take over that job for you, okay? Your can player now holds this gap, which frees up the number 3 to do whatever they want. So now the number 3 is no longer needing to shoot the Dorito player. He can now look heads up. He can shoot anywhere in this gap. And as soon as he does, he comes here. Now, like we established, you can't see anything that's going on the Doritos, so just focus on the snake right here. Depending on what has happened in the snake, you can either stay here if they're not in the snake, because now you've got really good coverage, really good holding onto the snake zones. You should stay here if they're not in the snake. If they are in the snake already, though, this is where you make the decision to come here and now hold the Dorito, assuming that they're not past the Dorito 1, okay? So now you've developed, in a pretty reasonable fashion, you've developed at least your number 3 to get to this position. Now, granted, this is like a relatively slow process that you might have to change based on what your opponents are doing, but it's a process that has thought behind it and that is relatively safe, right? As opposed to running with your gun down, which gets rid of a gun off the break, which is not great, but it also puts you in a position that's pretty far up the field, and you always run the risk of losing bodies off the break, so you want to not do that as much as possible. You don't want to be so committed up the field as a number 3, especially without knowing if anybody else on your team has made it alive, okay? Worst case scenario is you lose a body over here or you lose a body over here, and you're still in this position and you can react based on that, okay? So now from this position, once you've gotten your number 2 here, your number 1 here, and your 3 is this spot, your number 2 on the Dorito side can now come here. As soon as the number 3 gets to this spot, he takes over the job for the number 2, who then can come here and now slow the snake down depending on what's happening. Okay, so now you've got your number 2 here, your number 1 shooting inside. So you've got 2 guns looking Dorito way, potentially 3, because obviously your number 1 is going to be looking head up. But you have 2 guns who are looking Dorito way, maybe 3, and you have 2 guns looking snake way, also maybe 3. This guy can switch if he needs to. So I feel like personally, this is a lot of the setup that we're going to see this weekend. Okay. I think this is a lot of what we're going to see. I don't know about the door as much. I think getting to the door is going to be harder over the course of the tournament. So I'm not sure how common it will be for us to get to this spot. And again, admittedly, it's a pretty committed move to make. So it might be that we still try to do a lot of what this door player is trying to do, but we do it from back here. Okay. Because that's also an option. But I think this is a lot of what we're going to see. The nice thing about the 3 staying back here, again, is if we need to, instead of the 2 being an island by himself, we can now send the 3 here to help support that push and give the same coverage that we did from this spot, but again, being closer to our Dorito attacker, okay? The only reason why we're sending 3 bodies this way is because the snake side is such a strong position to be in that if something terrible happens where our number 1 dies or even our number 2, if our number 1 or 2 dies, but this guy filters up, you could possibly, you could backtrack and support, or you could lateral slide into the snake and become the attacker. It just depends on what's happened. So otherwise, again, alternatively, the 2 stays committed here, the 3 stays here, and we're like, hey, our Dorito 1 guy is really far up the field. Let's help support him. We still have a guy who can stop the Doritos if need be, but this dude can now filter behind and just be another body in that spot. Okay? So that's a lot of what I had to say. There are a few other things that I can talk about here, but I'm curious to know what you guys think so far. So that blind shot between the 3 and 2 shooting the snake gap is extremely viable. That blind shot shooting between, let's see. That blind shot between the 3 and 2 shooting the snake gap is extremely viable. I think it's, are you talking about this one right here? Is that the bounce or a blind shot? I'm not sure which one you're referencing. Let me know and I'll draw it on the screen here so people know what we're talking about. So again, really solid. That is an incredibly solid bounce shot. That is like the bounce shot to slow down the snake if you're wanting to do that from the snake side tower. So, okay. Well, while we wait maybe to hear from Nick about that bounce shot that he, or the shot he's talking about, let's go into some middle stuff here. Okay. So, admittedly, we didn't play the middle as much as I would have liked, but playing the map 3 times already. Keep bringing the value, brother. Absolutely, thanks, buddy. It's bigly viable. Absolutely, dude. Okay, so I said in my initial review of this layout that this route, I don't know if I said was relatively safe. I said something about it being safe. This is not true at all. This is not a safe route. Okay, the only way that you can make this route safe is if you delay from this position. It doesn't matter who you are. You could be the 2 or the 3. It doesn't really matter. The only way you make this route safe is if you delay from here and you shoot towards this player. Okay. This is the player that you're trying to kill. The problem is that if the home doubles that shot, you make this move, you will almost always die here. Okay. Now, certainly you might get a trade. It's possible. However, if they double the home, so let's say from the opposite perspective, they have their number 2 shooting this way and their number 3 who's shooting snake, and they off the break decide to target this one spot before they even commit to any move, and you're playing in the dead zone, you will die here. Okay. So, and that seemed to be the case, that as we started to play points more and more, we found that was actually happening. So I think that this move over the course of the tournament as a number 2 is going to be less and less safe, because there's 2 guns that can shoot at you relatively easily. It's a pretty big gap to get through, and there's just not a lot of room for error in this spot. Okay. What we found then is what that forces to happen is that the number 2 plays this spot shooting for the Dorito runner, and then the number 3 shoots towards the snake. Like what we identified, where they shoot just over this cake up here. Okay. Number 3 shoots for the snake runner. Number 2 shoots for the Dorito runner. They play heads up, and now they can make a choice. They can either decide to come here to the can. They can double the home for a little bit longer, which we don't want to do for too long because we've established that like the home can slow the snake down, but you can also do that from here and you're now out of the back center, or excuse me, the Dorito down. The home player can slow the Dorito down. Those angles are good, but you're not only far from your Dorito attacker, but you're also, you know, you've got two bodies in the same bunker that can easily get pinched out. So doubling the home is not a bad idea. You just need to have a plan to get out of there really quickly, okay? And the other issue with doubling the home is that if this player, whoever decides to play in this spot, if this player stays disciplined on that shot towards the home, like let's say, for example, off the break, you run here and you're shooting this gap, and you notice that nobody crosses this, you're just shooting, you can stay disciplined on this spot. You don't, because you don't need to go wider than that. You may have seen a Dorito 1 player run. You're looking for the number 2. So if you see the Dorito player run out wide, you can't shoot him anyway. But that doesn't mean you need to start like shooting your gun or you know, panning your gun over that direction. You can actually just stay right here, and now all of a sudden you're shooting all of your paint in this spot, and you can shoot the outside of it as well. You have one gun from the tower that can punish this dude. That's granted assuming that this player who's playing the home doesn't shoot for that. So you have a bit of a decision to make. I talked about this in my layout review video. Anytime you play the home and you can see the home, you know, you can see each other, you have to make a choice, okay? Every time you have to make a choice. Do I want to increase my chances of shooting the runner, but lowering my chances of winning the heads up fight, like, and potentially getting contained, or vice versa? Do I want to increase my chances of shooting back at the home and releasing my containment, but lowering my chances of shooting the runner, okay? And what that looks like is, in this case, my first few balls can either be towards here and then wrap and shoot the home, with the risk of there being a ball already heading my way and I just run out into it, or vice versa, that my first shots come here and then I miss the chance of shooting. Like, if I shoot towards the home, I am not shooting anybody who's going to this can. It'll be too late, okay? So in my experience, this is a decision you have to make based on what you see them doing, but also based on what is causing you to like, are you getting contained? Are you dying from the back center? Whatever the case is. Fun fact, I will tell you anecdotally, when we scrimmaged against Dynasty like 4 weeks ago or however long that was, this sounds so funny to say because it just sounds like a dream, but I was playing the back center and Oliver Lang was playing the back center as well. And I had noted that Oliver was playing pretty confidently behind the back center without really being behind his bunker. So instead of caring about shooting for like Archie, who was running the snake, I instead shot towards the back center, like right away. That was the first thing I was doing. And he was shooting the back center towards the Dorito side. So I think I was playing the home. I might have been playing the 2, but I said, hey, I'm shooting for the home, delaying, and then I'm going to go out. Sure enough, my first 5 balls right towards his loader, killed him right away, and then went. And all I'm trying to say is I'm not anywhere close to as good as anybody on Dynasty, but if you know what their tendencies are, you can get a kill. So it's just really important to make that decision based on what you see your opponents doing. So in my experience, if you're going to be shooting for the snake runner on the snake, if you're playing the home shooting snake way, you want to prioritize killing the snake player. Just avoid whatever pressure you're getting from this heads up shot on the snake side, because your first priority is to kill the snake player. Okay. If you want to shoot towards the home, let this Dorito player be the guy to do that. So the Dorito player obviously can shoot towards this and this. He needs to be able to get out of this spot towards the can that's right here. And in order for you to do that, you probably should come up over the top, and that you need to worry about this gap. Okay, whether that's the tower shooting at you or the home shooting at you wrapped or over the top or on the Dorito side. Okay, this is the guy that needs to get out of this spot. The 3 can just chill for a bit. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Anyway, let's see. Bounce shot is huge. Absolutely. I've noticed that from home, I can basically see and shoot at the whole field. Yeah, there was a lot more visibility from the home, that it just was like the gaps were way better at the actual layout than they were on Guns Up. Not that I don't think that the Guns Up ones are bad. It's just different to be there in person, right? They look bigger because I guess we're smaller. I don't know, but you can definitely do a lot more from the home than I gave it credit doing the layout review video. Yeah, that route in the middle was not safe. Yeah, totally not safe at all. Definitely do not do that off the break. You can do that as a delay, like I'd mentioned. You can, for example, if you tiger the guy going out to the tower, you can absolutely punch up here, no problem. even if the guy makes it alive in the tower, but he starts shooting snake way, you can make this move. It's just super, super risky. Okay. It is risky. There is value there, but it is super risky. So just be aware. Steven, how do we find you during Cup? To be honest, I'm not sure. I did speak to Darren today. I got a little bit better of a sense of what I'll be doing, but I imagine that because I imagine I'll be at the commentator booth on the pro field for like most of the day. So I'm sure during lunch break, that'll be a great time. I don't try to like avoid people. So again, if I usually when people give me like knowing looks, I'll acknowledge them. So, but if I seem like I'm busy, I'll tell you if I'm busy, but it's nothing against you. But otherwise, I'll probably be annexed to the commentators booth for a while. So, not exactly sure. By the way, 42 of you guys watching live, thank you so much. Please be sure to hit the like button on the video right now if you haven't already. Sorry, yeah, bounce shot working and watching my B. No problem. I figured that's the shot you were talking about, Nick, but it was in fact the bounce shot. Just for those of you tuning late, we were talking about the snake bounce shot. It is absolutely there. It is super good. It's always different when you see the layout in person, for sure. Was anyone running off break in front of the Aztec and doing so safely? The only in front of the Aztec route that people were taking, so you're talking about this route right here. The only route that people were taking doing that was this like J hook or fish hook, whatever you want to call it. L route, doesn't matter. The only route that I saw people taking was this one, using the tower to blind, and this is a really solid route in my opinion. This route, because it exists, this route necessitates, in my opinion, that you always line up at the box like this. Okay? As the 1 and 2 on the snake side, you should always line up like this, because now they won't know if you're taking this inside route or if you're going to go outside. And the number 2 just needs to run baseline. It doesn't matter what the number 2 does in that situation. They just need to clear space for the 1. But if you always change where the number 1 is lining up based on which way you're going to go, so like say for example this inside route they line here, or the outside route they line here, then the home players are going to know exactly where to put their paint. And I've said this before, but you should almost always on your break box, you should almost always line up like this. Okay, this makes it really hard to scout what it is the front players are going to do. Even if you plan on running and gunning, you can still do this route. Okay, you just need to, your number 1s need to just kind of clear, or your number 2s, excuse me, need to give a little bit of space for your 1s. But your 1s, all they have to do is just run like sprint for a second and then pull their gun up. I know that a lot of people like to line up like this if they're running and gunning to the corner, but again, that telegraphs what you're going to do. So you should almost always line up like this. There's very, very few exceptions to doing this. So you'll notice in the pro leagues, most of the time they're doing this because it's super hard to scout. So you're a wizard, Harry. What's up? What's up, Matt? How are you, buddy? Okay. I'm pretty sure that's everything. A couple things to note here too, actually. The last couple things, and then we'll be done here, because I think we've kind of exhausted the updates for this. So last couple things. You guys that play the snake, you have to be very careful when you get here to the 50 and you plan to wrap, okay? Like I've said before, and like everybody knows, as an attacker, you almost always want to wrap and go, okay? You want to make a move to your bunker, you want to earn the kills that you can on the inside, and then you want to wrap, shoot at the guys that are in front of you, and then go, okay? There are times where it makes sense to stay on the inside, because you're like, let's say for example, you get to the 50 first. It's a 5-on-5 situation, so the 2 people in front of you are both alive. The way that you punish, or I guess like exacerbate your advantage, is by shooting cross field, because now you're starting to, not only are you alive on the snake side, in this case, you're alive on the snake side, which is drawing 2 guns in front of you for sure. So like, let's say for example, there's a guy here and a guy here. Both of these people are shooting at you, okay? Not only is that happening, which means you don't need to like turn and run into their guns. You don't need to wrap here and be like, I'm getting my face blown off. You can stay alive here and you're being just as productive, because these guys are panicking that you're in the 50. Okay. But not only that, but now you're starting to squeeze out the Dorito side, which gives advantage to your Dorito players to push. So that's fine in a 5-on-5 situation. Obviously, depending on if you need a point or not, you should wrap and pressure the outside. But What I saw happen a lot, and granted, this is between D4 and D5 and some D3 players, so this isn't a great sample size, is that people would get to the 50, and the person who was left alive in one of these two spots, maybe even this bunker, were just staring right here. They were staring at this gap, and they were just waiting for the player to wrap, and then they were going to blast them, okay? That's particularly the case on this bunker, because this bunker is really, really hard to fight from. It's just a straight edge, or it's over the top, okay? So if you know where they're at, or you're not sure where they're at, you should almost never wrap right here, okay? If you're going to, you need to make sure that you head check quickly, or you come out with a 1 ball and you know where the shot is. Otherwise, you almost always need to come up over the top, because that will be more surprising than it will be to come here, unless you always do that, and then people just know where to put their paint, right? If I'm playing against a team and I know every time they're a snake attacker, when he gets to the 50, he comes up over the top, guess where my gun is pointing? It is over the top. So there are a couple ways you can change this up to make it a little more safe, which is you can come up over the center of the bunker, which changes that angle, right? The nice thing about coming up over the top close-ish to the outside of the bunker is that as soon as you get them to flinch, you can then control them by wrapping on the outside. Whereas if you do it over the top and you didn't kill them, but you got them to flinch, you're going to be too slow when you decide to come on the outside of the bunker. You'll be way too late. So the only reason you do this is because you don't need to kill them, but you're just trying to maybe get that shot on them and then open up the point. But the biggest thing here is you want to be very safe here. What I don't want to see, and this will happen, I'm sure it will, what I don't want to see is a 4-on-5 situation, or rather a 5-on-4 in your favor, where you've got a body here, 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 and here, like we talked about. You have this setup. This is an excellent setup. It's a 5-on-4. You tigered somebody or killed somebody out of the snake side. You get to this spot, you wrap, only to have this guy obviously posting on you, and he blows your face off. That, like, you should never let that happen, because what's the first thing that's going to happen if this is the case? Well, if this dude is here looking snake, he can't see the insert very well. He might know that, okay, we tigered the snake guy, so now I'm going to wrap, and as soon as I do, I can contain this dude. That's great. If you pick up on that, that's excellent. But otherwise, the risk you run is this dude dies out, like you kill the snake guy and you call Tiger 1, and maybe this dude doesn't see him because he walks out this way. Your guy wraps immediately and just gets his face blown off, and then this dude filters out because nobody was watching him. So now this guy, they've completely equalized their disadvantage. So now this is still the situation, okay? It doesn't matter where the one is. This guy's looking here, this guy's looking here. So you just want to really, really be careful as the front snake player. That's all I'm really trying to illustrate. Be super, 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 super careful. Okay, last part I'll talk about is the Dorito side. Admittedly, I did not see a ton of production from the Dorito side. A lot of games just straight up ended from the snake push. That's really what happened. But there was a few situations in which there was containment, that like the point was slowed down, where we could see a little bit more of the creativity coming from the Doritos, which was really helpful. So the first thing is that in one of the points that I saw, this was the setup. Okay, I think the 3 was dead. And this is either the 2 or the 3. It doesn't really matter. But it's like a 4-on-4 maybe. And this was the setup they had. Okay. Honestly, not a terrible setup. Not a great setup, in my opinion. Because if you lose any one of these wide guys, you're in trouble, like we've already talked about. But what I saw the Dorito 1 player do was that they actually wrapped here and got this guy to flinch, which forced him, well, at least it felt like it, forced him to look inside, which then he called for a switch on this guy. Okay. This isn't a bad move. In my opinion, this isn't bad. And honestly, these people might have already been looking this direction. Like, rather in like an ideal setup, they probably already would have been looking this way. But if you make this move, this is great. You just can't really commit to this move on the outside, even though you got this guy to flinch, because this guy will kill you, right? And this guy might stand up confidently and shoot you on the wire. So what options do you have? Well, the first thing is, if it were me, I would back up for a second and just head check to see if this dude's now looking my way, okay? Before I even commit to any move into this little, like, crazy box here, if I wrapped here for a second and I got this guy to flinch and he freaked out, the first thing I'd probably do is stand up over the top, because who's going to see me, and just see if this Dorito player is doing something tricky. If he's trying to, like, step out wide, if he's trying to look in the inside, whatever the case is. I would just gain visual information by doing this, okay? if I especially hear a swap call, like if I'm hearing switch, whatever the case is, or the Dorito is rapping or something, I just want to bait the guy that's in front of me to see if he's going to challenge me. But then from there, I'm going to back up and I'm going to head check. And it might not be that I guess you can't see it from right here, but it might be that I just check right here and I put some balls on this dude to get him to freak out. Because now, as soon as I establish that this guy's looking at me, I can actually pretty confidently come up to this gap right here on the inside, of course. I can come up to this gap, I can shoot or head check and see, okay, this guy's still not looking at me. And now all of a sudden, all I have is one challenge. I have one shot I have to make this to win the game for my team. And it's this snapshot right here. Granted, this guy might be looking at you, but he's a little bit more panicked now because you took a surprising inside shot that he wasn't expecting, okay? But all I have to do is wrap and shoot this dude. I could, if I wanted, since the Dorito can't see me if he's still there, I could come up over the top and do the same thing. It has to be super quick. But all I have to do now is destroy this guy, and the point is open for me, okay? Granted, as soon as this dude dies and this guy is looking this way, he will know immediately that he probably needs to wrap and kill you or do something, right? But as soon as he does that, this guy's dead, and now I'm here. That tower guy can't see me anymore, and he doesn't even know exactly where I'm at, okay? As soon as I'm in this position, I just have to protect myself from the wire. And again, I can come up over the top and surprise this guy, or I can do an inside shot. It just depends. But obviously the biggest issue is being run down. I really don't want to get run down. And I obviously don't want this guy to be able to run me down for free on the inside. We did see that happen a few times, but just be aware that that's, in my opinion, that's kind of how you handle the movement within this like Dorito 50-ish bunker. Is honestly, first thing, just play it safe. Watch the wire, wrap, get this guy to flinch. As soon as he does, back up, check off this guy, see if he's looking at you. If he is, either kill him or get him to flinch. And then you still need to approach this cautiously. The worst case is you play against a team who's not good, and then they'll end up doing this. And the reason I say that's not good is because if you have anybody alive on the snake, now you just win on the snake side, but you would need to know that. You would need to know if you have somebody alive, and you would need to know if they have all those guns looking your way. So it's not to say that as soon as you look here, like you got this dude to flinch, as soon as you look inside, you see this dude looking at you. It's like, oh, the Dorito tower is not looking at me. You still need to be careful, but you can take these angles kind of cautiously, right? You can come here, still blinding out the Doritos, wrap and shoot at this guy, and if he's not there, great. And then you commit to this one, wrap, shoot at this guy, cool, he's dead or not, and then now you're in this spot. If you kill both of those people, this is an instant like stand up here, blinding the snake with this 50 to my right, stand up here, kind of look around and just check right here, and then you just run at this guy. You literally run at him right here and then bunker him. So okay, that's it. That's all we have time for. Hope you're well, dude. Thank you, Rich. I appreciate it. I am doing better. So I've been congested for like 5 weeks. It's crazy. We are playing 3-man in NXL. Can you run through a quick 3-man point strategy? I will for the last bit. What do people advise for getting stuck at the small Aztec snake side before you enter the snake? Felt like if you went there off break, it was hard to get out. Yeah, so first things first, if you and your opponent are matched, you're not in any rush to get out of here. So just be aware of that. If your opponent is also stuck at the Aztec, just chill. However, if you are able to keep visual information, which is your responsibility as an attacker, it's your responsibility no matter what position, but you are always responsible for being aware of what your opponent in front of you is doing as much as possible, especially if you can see them. So if you're gun battling, or you kind of take a second and you hear the snake is going to go and then he does, your first reaction should be, you needed to know this before, but you need to know who is the guy behind him that's going to stop you. Because as I've said before, you always have at least 2 to 5 seconds. I'm putting 4, 2 to 5 seconds to react to that move, where you're only fighting one gun essentially. So for example, as soon as that snake guy takes a bite, I should know where the guy behind him is, because I should have already either seen his paint coming or have challenged him in some way to identify that. Whether that's over the top, whether that's shooting this dude, gaining dominance, and then wrapping and seeing where that guy is, or coming on the inside and seeing where he is. If I'm here in this gunfight with the guy in front of me, and I don't see a dude here, then I know he's in the tower almost always, unless we killed him, okay? He's going to be at the tower. Now, the tower is a really tough one because I can't actually get through the tower, right? The tower guy can kill me if I go wide. However, if I go straight ahead and I dive right here into the snake, the tower guy can't see me, Okay. It's only when I decide to go out wide that he will shoot me in the pack. So in the case where we're matched, that's the option I have. That's even the case if they didn't move. Like if I beat this guy in a gunfight and I'm shooting, I can just wrap, see if he's at the can or not. Cool, he isn't. Take the dive here. Cool, he is. Now I have to shoot both of those players, which is really standard as an attacker. Get the guy in front of you to give up control and then wrap. And as soon as you get that can guy to flinch, you take the bite. But otherwise, if the snake player in this layout in particular, if the snake player is in the snake and he's been there for even like 10 seconds, you obviously need to get out of this spot because you need to match him. But that's still a case in which you really only have one gun to fight. Now, if you have two guns that you're fighting that are supporting that guy, so let's say, for example, worst case scenario, their number 2 is here. Let's say the 1 is somewhere here. We don't know exactly where he is, but the number 2 is at the can, and there's somebody in the middle looking at us, whether that's in one of these two spots, and we know that. Then we just need to understand and identify that this is a disco play. This is a Dorito side push play. We need to do something to push the Doritos to either force the middle to look that way or we will lose the point, okay? Because if I try to go into those two guns, I will die and they'll win regardless. If I stay alive, we always have a chance to pull back. Just the same as what I said before, it's always a possibility that this snake guy comes here and he just wraps right into my gun that I'm posted on, that I have posted on him, and he just dies. It's always a possibility. And at that point, now we have 5 bodies alive maybe, and they have 2 guns looking our way. Hopefully, we've also done some damage on the Dorito side, but that's how you counteract that. If it's a prolonged hold, your middle guy needs to push and run through. He needs to kill somebody out of the middle. So if, for example, your 3 is let's say your 3's back here and you're stuck here and your number 2's here. So let's say your 2's here, your 3's here, your 1's here, their 1's here, and there's somebody in the middle. Let's say they're here. This is their 3, and their number 2 is at the can on the opposite side. If I'm stuck here as a 1 and I know I've got 2 guns shooting at me, the first thing I'm going to say is, whoever's my 3 player, dude, you got to go. You got to run down that China or that Texas or whoever, the middle guy. You got to go run him down. Okay. My job at that point is to post up on this dude and kill him if he wraps. But then my number 3's job has to be that he comes and runs this dude down. That's just how that there's no, you are not the guy who has the ball at that point. So again, obviously assuming that nothing else is changing on the Dorito side, assuming it's still a 2-on-2 and everybody's alive, that has to be the play. Okay. As far as let's go just 3-on-3. I'm going to do it in 1 minute because I've talked about 3-on-3 ad nauseum. So 3-on-3 is always the same. Okay. Principles to follow: spread the field off the break, never lay down in the snake, always have all 3 guns up. Okay. There's no exception to this. It does not matter where you go on this layout as long as you are controlling the guy in front of you and allowing your number 3 to switch based on what is happening. So your number 1 is always going to be in one of these 4 bunkers. Your number 1 on the snake is always going to be in one of these 4 bunkers. And your number 3 is the one who really needs to make a decision on if he wants to play the dead zone on the snake side, the dead zone on the Dorito side, or the home. Okay. Alternatively, you could run up to this spot, to this can if you want, or the tower if you wanted. But all you're doing is your 1s are pushing straight ahead and fighting the 1v1 that's in front of them. And they're periodically checking off the middle. Okay. Your 1s are shooting heads up, controlling, and then wrapping. So as soon as you own the guy in front of you, let's say a lot of times in 3v3s, people will stop here. Okay. You own the guy in front of you and you wrap and you look for whatever the middle guy is doing. Okay. You're trying to identify where he's at and where he's looking. So if the 1 sees that the home is somewhere in the middle, like he sees his pack or he saw him moving, but he's not looking his way, then that gives this dude all the information he needs to own this guy and push. Okay. So if, for example, you guys are both stuck here, you're winning this gunfight and you look and you see the middle guy is running and he's going towards the Dorito or this wedge looking Dorito way. What that tells me that as soon as I beat this dude, I am sprinting all the way to the 50. I'm going all the way. As soon as I get to the 50, I look on the inside for just a second as I'm running. If I get the kill, great. If I don't, I have to come on the outside immediately and make sure this guy didn't match or hasn't moved from the spot. Okay. For the Dorito 1, same thing. One of these bunkers, I'd always stick on the outside if it were me. You can't see each other as well, and that's okay. Now you're more worried about what the middle is doing just because he's probably looking at you. And then you're always just trying to keep tabs on the outside guy as much as possible. The 3, in my opinion, is where all the brains are in a 3v3 because the 3 has to know how long he stays on looking one way versus when to switch. Okay. All the 3 is doing is moving and doing this, shooting Dorito away, making that side a 2v1, then switching, shooting Snake way, making that side a 2v1, all the while keeping tabs on the middle guy. And the way you do that is you shoot, shoot, shoot. So off the break, let's say even off the break, I want to challenge my home player. Doesn't really matter. Challenge the home player, get intel of what he's doing. Home player staying at home, great. Shoot, 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 come down here. I shoot here. Did he cross this gap or not? If no, I know he's probably at the can or at the tower, but he can't be wider than that. If he crossed that spot, then I have a second where I don't have to worry about him so much, okay? Shoot, shoot, shoot. Okay, cool. He crossed that zone. Wrap, shoot towards the home. He's there because I can see him, or he's not there. Therefore, I don't know if he's there or he's hiding. Whatever the case is, I just make a decision off that. What's my Snake side look like? What's my Dorito side look like? Snake is dead, push Snake. Dorito's dead, push Dorito. Both people are alive. Now I'm going to come up to this tower. Okay, shoot, shoot, shoot. I still hear that the guy's at this can. We'll call it the Bravo. The guy's still at the can. I hear Bravo. I see back center. I'm now shooting at the back center. I'm shooting, shooting. Oh, I hear the God. Okay, cool. The God cannot really see me from this position. Like, if he's looking on the inside, great. But even if not, I can always wrap here and still shoot towards the home. The God cannot see me. All I'm trying to do is isolate and move. Isolate and move, okay? Bully one guy, isolate the other dude, move up the field. Okay, shooting at the home, still can't see me. Now I'm here. God can't see me. Home can't see me. I can now shoot at the Dorito guy. Is he still there? If yes, great. If he's not, oh well. Now I can start floating up here. All of a sudden, I wrap. This guy's not looking at me. I now come here, surprise the home guy, whatever the case is, or I set up a trap. I stare at this dude, and this guy runs out into my gun. Whatever. I could go down the list of all the things you could do, but the principle is always the same. The 1 attacks this side, the 1 attacks this side, and the 3 just shoots, wraps, checks off, shoots, wraps, checks off. They're just shooting, wrapping, shooting, wrapping. Okay, that's all you do in 3s. Admittedly, they're not that interesting to me. They're fun to play, but there's not that much strategy involved in 3v3. If you've played the red zone drill, for example, it is literally that with 3 people. The red zone drill is just you're pushing super fast to the team's opposite whatever bunker, whether that's this door or the Dorito, and it's a continuous 1v1. So that's really all it is. It's just that with more people. So hopefully that answers that. But that is it. Let's see. Hope you're well, dude. I am. Thank you, Rich. Who are you coaching for this event? We meet brief at NXL Texas, and we talk about coaching podcast thing, kind of like your tactical review you've been doing. I'm not coaching anybody this event. I'm just commentating. I'm just doing Go Sports stuff. Thank you. That was perfect down. Okay, cool. Sweet. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate all of you guys. Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate all you guys watching live. Again, if you see me at the event, please feel free to stop me, and I will tell you if I'm busy or not. Don't take it offensively if I do, but I always appreciate you guys saying something. It does mean a lot to me. I will be there on Wednesday watching probably just pro games, and then Matt the Gym Rats team, I'm going to be helping them a little bit. They practice on Wednesday, and then we're at the tournament. So thanks guys so much for watching. I will see you hopefully in Florida, and take care.